So here's a section of, or from section 1, another subject is the vertex formula, and using that to come up with how to find the vertex without having to do completing the square. So with this one, we can use completing the square in general form, and we can rewrite this by dividing everything by our a, because our a has to be 1. And then we can start doing completing the square to this. You know, we'd move this over to the other side, over here, and then we'd start taking our b and dividing by 2 and then squaring and add to both sides. Well, it turns out if you do that, then the inside when I have it, turns out to be x minus b over 2a. And this is actually squared. What it turns out on the inside is where we have our normal parentheses, so x plus, say, 2 quantity squared, and we take the opposite of this for our h. So notice that that number is a negative b over 2a. So our h is actually equal to negative b over 2a. So I can look at my quadratic equation, or function, function, same thing. Say it's 9x squared minus 2x plus 3. And I can find my h by just taking my negative b, which would be 2, divided by 2 times a, which is 18, so then it's 1/9. And then I can find my y value by then taking that number and plugging it into my equation for x. So then I would take it, plug this number in for x here and into x there, and then solving for y. So then I would have my h comma my k, my vertex. So I can just look at the standard form equation, find my negative b over 2a, and then plug that into the function. That's what this means right here. And then I'll have my x of my vertex and my y of my vertex. And then just my axis of symmetry is x equals negative b over 2a. And then I can use that, and then I can plot another point. Right, your intercept would be always 0, comma c. If I plugged in 0 into it, x squared times 0 and x times 0, 0, and then so you just have left c. You could use this y-intercept 0c and then fold it over the axis of symmetry, and then you would have your graph. So then I could actually write in vertex form. I could take and do my y equals, or f of x equals my a, which I would know, right, from the equation, and then x minus h, which would be a minus b over 2a, quantity squared. And then I would just have to find my k, plus k. So I'd have to find my k, which is not too bad, because your k is just your y value right here, right? This would be your k. That would be k, so then I'd plug that in right there, and I'd have my equation. So here's a couple examples that we could do. So here, if we're just trying to find the vertex, right, I would just take negative b, which is negative 6, and divide by that by 2 times a. So negative 6 over 2 times 1, that would be negative 3. So there's my x value, my vertex, negative 3. Now to find my y value, I just plug it in, negative 3 quantity squared, right? So make sure you put parentheses on that, because whenever we square a negative or a positive, it's always going to be positive. Then take 6 and times that by negative 3, so we get negative 18. And then we're going to add 5. So we get negative 9 plus 5. That is negative 4. So there's our x, and there's our y value of our vertex. And then we could use that to write the equation. Y equals our a, which is 1. X minus h, so that'd be plus 3, quantity squared, plus our k, which is a negative 4. So there I just turned it into vertex form without completing the square. Okay, this one I can take my negative b, which would be a positive 8/3, and then divide that by 2 times a, so 2 times 2/3. So this is a little more complicated, but we can still do it, right? So then we have 8/3 divided by 4/3, and dividing by a fraction is like multiplying by the reciprocal, so 8/3 times 3/4. 3's are going to cancel, 4 cancels with the 8 to make it a 2, so this is equal to 2, so our x is 2. And then we can plug that 2 back into our equation, which I need, so I'll keep it back here at the top. So we're going to square 2, then times it by 2/3, then take an 8, oh, there should be an x here, then take negative 8 thirds and times that by 2, and then we're going to add 5 thirds at the end. So 2 squared is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, so 8 thirds, oops, jeez. So 8 thirds, and then our b was negative 8 thirds times 2, negative 16 thirds. I'm keeping it in thirds, so then I can add like terms, and then plus 5 thirds. So then negative 8, or 8 minus 16 is a negative 8. Negative 8 plus 5 is negative 3 over 3, which equals a negative 1. So there's our vertex 2, negative 1. I could write an equation. Y equals my a, which was 2 thirds, parentheses x minus my h, so that'd be minus 2 quantity squared, and then plus my k, which is negative 1. So there, it's turned into vertex form. Okay, so here's your homework for problems like that. It's on page 293, and you're just doing 19a, just 19a and 25a. So you're just finding, I believe, the vertex. So here's 19, f of x equals x squared minus 2x plus 3. So I do my negative b over 2a. That is a positive 2 over 2, which is 1. So there's my x is 1. Now I got to find my b by plugging in my x, which is 1, in for x, simplifying. So we get 2 for my y. So there's my vertex, and that's all that it asks for, is just the vertex. Number 25. Okay, so here's number 25. Again, we're going to take our negative b, we're going to divide it by 2 times our a. So negative b is 3 over 2 times negative 1/2. So that is 3 over negative 1, which equals negative 3. So there's our x, negative 3. Now we got to figure out our y. So 1/2 times our x squared, so we got to square this x. Negative 3, you got to square that first, which is 9, and then we'll times it by negative 1/2. And then I got to take negative 3 and times it by negative 3, which is a positive 9. And then I can subtract 1/2. Okay, so we have negative 9 halves plus 18 halves, right? 9 over 2 would be, or 18 over 2 would be 9, right? And then minus 1/2. So I just get common denominator here. That should be negative 9. Negative 9 plus 1, or sorry, negative 9 minus 1 is minus 10 halves, which is negative 5. So there's our vertex. Negative 3, negative 5 for 25a. Sorry about that, my little adding here. Negative 9 plus 18 would be a positive 9. So a positive 9 halves, and then minus 1 would be 8 halves. So that's not 4. Or sorry, that is 4. So negative 3, 4 would be our vertex for number 25.